Welcome to the Tenet Podcast. I'm Todd Pearson here with my friend, partner, and 1974 runner-up Scripps National Spelling Bee champion, co-host extraordinaire, Wes Brown.
Oh my God, Todd. How did you find that?
Yeah. Do you remember that scenario?
Oh my God, do I remember? Because I came this close of winning it. Right.
I want to take you back there real quick.
Okay. I'm going to close my eyes.
Oh, that's exactly what I was going to ask you to do too. I want to take you back to that moment in Birmingham, Alabama, where you're sitting on that stage and you're sitting there with your nemesis, Julie Ann Junkin. Can you picture it?
I can.
Now, do you remember the word that tripped you up?
Yes, I do, because I have nightmares about it. I mean, I wake up, my wife will nudge me in the ribs and say, would you quit spelling that word? I hate it. So, I mean, it's just, I lose sleep over it sometimes.
So the word for our listeners that Wes messed up, I guess.
Yeah.
For lack of a better description. Flubbed up.
I flubbed up.
Hydrophyte.
Hydrophyte. Oh my God.
Can you spell that word? Do you know how to spell it?
I haven't heard that word much since 1974.
Since that incident?
Yeah. So can you use it in a sentence, please?
So hydrophyte, a plant which grows only in or on water.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
It's from botany.
Yeah. Not the band.
Science.
Yeah. So hydrophyte. Let's see. I'm going to close my eyes and think about it. HYDRO. It's not F. PH. I want to say I, but I think it's YTE. Hydrophyte.
Nice. Good job.
Thanks.
You could have beaten her, man.
I know. I think she got caught to me. I think she got on my nerves.
You're a goof, dude.
I know. Thanks.
Do you think the spelling bee is even relevant anymore?
I don't know, because I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, now we carry around these supercomputers in our back pockets, right? And it seems like with texting and the way we communicate that everything is abbreviated, right? Everything's OMG, whatever. And take, for instance, in this age of technology and in the art world right now, there's all these different abbreviated words. So have you ever heard of extended reality?
Kind of, yeah. A little bit familiar.
Yeah. So with extended reality, you don't even need to spell it, right? It's just XR.
XR.
It's an abbreviation.
Right.
And same with virtual reality.
VR.
Another one that you don't have to spell or even say the word, VR. And then you have a little more difficult one, right? Augmented reality, which I imagine a lot of people would misspell augmented.
Well, is it OGG mented? No. Okay.
It's just AR.
You can laugh, Brooke. It's all right.
And last but not least, probably the most difficult of the lot, non-fungible token. You don't need to be able to spell it, let alone say it, and get tongue-tied. It's just NFT.
And what's cool is, even if you don't even know what non-fungible means, today you're going to find out.
Exactly. Luckily, our guest this week does. She's a young visionary artist, a pioneer in the exploration of XR, extended reality, art, and community-based VR, virtual reality collaboration. Welcome to the program, Brooke Einbender, a.k.a. Mindbender Art. Brooke, how are you?
I'm so good and happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for putting up with our nonsense.
I know. It's tough. I'm sure. It was painful.
You guys are a dynamic duo. Two
like
peas
Batman
in a pod.
That's awesome. I love that. And I think we should thank Bill and for letting us use the space.
Do you
want to give a shout out to Bill?
Yeah. So we are at Bit Factory Studios here in Denver, in the heart of the art district on Santa Fe. And our good friend and gallerist artist, Bill Thomason, has been so kind as to lend us one of his studios to record this episode with Brooke. So shout out to Bill.
And the cool thing is this space is available to rent. So if you're an artist in Denver and you need a space to rent, it's a beautiful little space, has some nice light coming in. And I think this would be a great opportunity for you. So you should give Bill a call.
And shout out to New Magazine for connecting us. Richard
Yes.
Kalischer and Madam Empire, the curator. So really glad they, linked us up.
Yeah, and that show was amazing.
Yeah.
It was.
And your stuff, your artwork is amazing.
Thank you.
And your presentation, which we're gonna, get into, you did a phenomenal job and really kind of clarified some of the terms and the excitement that's coming, that's happening in the art world, I think.
Absolutely. And a huge, pillar of my mission as an artist is to educate people about this new space. And so that's also why I'm here today, is to spread the word.
And if you get we went to I think you were there too. We were all at the fashion show last night. And I did a Facebook Live and some video that I'm going to break up and put out there for people. But man, it was fun and some great stuff and just a great vibe in the room. And there was about 100 people there. Everybody was masked up and I had a blast. Todd, did you have fun?
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I've seen a fashion show, and it was exciting. It's exciting to be in a room full of people with art and great music. There was a DJ, of course, because it was a fashion show, and beautiful designs from these designers and beautiful models. So good time.
That gallery was awesome too. The Bridge Project. I was really blown away by the space and the high ceilings and the exposed brick. It was really nice.
It is a nice space and wonderful job curating the art show.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she did just a phenomenal job.
Yep. Sammy Patson, but
Yep.
she goes by the name Madam Empire.
Yeah. And she gave us a tour and introduced us to a lot of the artists, and it was just a lot of fun. Okay. But thanks for mentioning that. And
Yeah.
shout out.
Totally.
I appreciate that.
Before we get started, tell our listeners your website so that they can go check it out as they're listening to this and kind of see exactly what you do and kind of start wrapping their head around.
Yeah,
your
that's
art.
a great idea. I recommend actually hopping on my Instagram, which is mindbender.art. And you'll be able to see my oil paintings, my virtual reality work, my installations. But my website is also www.mindbender-art.com. And you'll be able to see my paintings, and I have prints available and a lot of swag.
Nice.
Everybody loves swag.
Right?
So, Brooke, where does your art journey really start?
Gosh, I'd say from the very beginning. Art has always been a huge anchor in my life. And growing up, my parents really instilled in me the power and potential of art. And they were very supportive in this journey, which, I'm very thankful for, because it would have been much more difficult to really take the leap and dive into my art full time without their support. For me, it's been instilled of the importance of art in our culture. And so, I went to Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It's a small private school, and got the Presidential Scholarship for Visual Arts. And that really gave me the confidence to dive in and pursue art. And I minored in entrepreneurship. So that gave me this business foundation using innovation, creativity, and I also minored in Spanish. So I was a very busy student, spent super late hours in the studio, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., blasting music and painting. And I had some really amazing art experiences there. I'm really thankful for the education. So my first kind of series I created in college was all about the essence of crystals and really exploring their materiality, their colors, their energy, their geometry. And it was interesting, though, because in the academic setting, I felt like I needed to have meaning of my art as I created it, that things need to really symbolize other things and for me to impose meaning. But as I've grown as an artist and time has passed and I've, graduated and really taken my own artistic practice and studio practice into my own hands, I really found that the creation process is what is truly informing the meaning of my work, and this whole discovery through that and the arrival of the meaning once you create one piece or many pieces and take it all in. So that was a really cool shift. And really like eliminated writer's block almost, but like artist block, right? Trying to create that meaning. And so, yeah, I loved Wake Forest. I did some really cool programs, one of which every 4 years on campus, they have a fund where they select 5 to 6 students at the whole university. And they have this contemporary art collection called the Student Union Collection. And they give us a budget of $100,000 to research contemporary art market trends and to really research the current collection, which I think started in the 60s. And with that, our only task was to purchase art for this collection that reflected our contemporary times. And so it's really purchasing art through the lens of the student's eyes, right? Politics or cultural or, whatever's going on, environmental, like how can we depict that through different works of art? And so half that semester, we studied art trends and did so much research. We pitched different artists that we thought were really representative of our times. And then we booked a trip to New York City. They flew us out and we met with galleries and negotiated and had private viewings and met some artists. And we ultimately had to all decide on which pieces to acquire. And so it was an incredible experience, just once again, like being introduced to like this one kind of facet of the art world that especially those my age, right now I'm 25, but, back when I was like 18, didn't really get to experience. Maybe I was 21. Time is weird. But so that was an amazing experience. And also I took another course studying contemporary art where we studied the Venice Biennale. And so half a semester we studied really contemporary trends in that field of with the Venice Biennale. There's a pavilion per each country where an artist represents that country. And Wake Forest University actually has a house in Venice, right on the canal next to the Guggenheim. Once we did so much research, we each became an expert on one of the pavilions and one of those artists representing that country. So when we flew to Venice and stayed at this house, it's called the Casa Artem, we actually went to these pavilions, presented on the entire exhibition about the artists to our class of 15 students. And so just really cool experiences that are beyond the academic bubble, right? Real world experiences that I've really carried with me.
Yeah, what I think is brilliant about the program that you ran and the fact that you studied entrepreneurship, really if artists that went to art school wherever had a minor in entrepreneurship, I think that would really give them a leg up. Your experience sounds amazing and really, in my view, would set you up for success that you're experiencing now.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for it, the opportunity. And also in regards to entrepreneurship, I started my own company in college where I was selling student artwork and prints of students' pieces. And through the entrepreneurship program, we got seed funding. We had to create pitches, business model. They linked us up with a law school student to establish our LLC and, create partnership agreements. And they flew in people to come speak with us that are successful entrepreneurs. And it really was an amazing education. And one of the reasons I chose that school is because it's SAT optional for submitting your scores. And for me, I really appreciated that because I could opt in for an interview, an in-person interview or a phone interview rather than, just some numbers and some standardized testing. So for me, that's actually how I got a few more scholarships was just, showing up in person and telling my story.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That is
selling yourself essentially, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Having that one-on-one connection. And that's really cool that they do that, that they give people the opportunity.
Yeah, it's really, more schools are adopting it, but it's still pretty unique.
Yeah. So, I'm going to give a big shout out, congratulations to Wake Forest because they have it going on. So
yeah,
that's awesome.
Their alumni network, I mean, so strong, tight knit, and yeah, it was a really good education, and I wouldn't do it again. You know, I would not do it any other way. And those 4 years were great, but also happy to move on into the real world and really just like blossom and find myself and just kind of start my own path that is so unique. And I never knew it would end up where I am right now, but that's the beauty of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, right when you graduated from school, did you just jump in as a full-time artist, or what were you doing right after school?
So after graduation, I moved to New York City and I lived with my grandmother, which was great because she was empty nesting and she also loved fine wine and cheese. So it was a great symbiotic relationship and roommate situation. And I worked with this woman named Phyllis Haddis, who is a private collector. She's an art scholar, art advisor, and her husband, who's passed away, but his name's William Rubin, was the curator and director of the Museum of Modern Art for 25 years. And I learned about him in my art history classes. And so it was really incredible to actually live and experience that history and hear the stories that, you know, Phyllis and Bill Rubin actually lived and were best friends with so many modern masters, you know, went and hosted salons and in their lofts with these emerging artists who now are, you know, so famous and most are passed away. And he knew Picasso dearly, went to his studio in Spain many times and acquired extremely pivotal works from Picasso directly for the MoMA, like Picasso's Constructivist Guitar, which is just a really art historical pivotal piece for Picasso's entire journey as an artist and, you know, entering into this Cubism form. And there's a great picture of Bill and Picasso's so, you know, he's pretty short and Bill is over 6 feet. I think he's like 6'4", and they're handing over the guitar together. And it's a really cool picture. But yeah, with that experience, I worked in Phyllis's penthouse, and we were really just like a 2-person team, but we also worked with her daughter. And I was exposed to every facet of the art world and really experienced the art auction houses, restoration, museum acquisition, private collecting, you name it. And it was a really cool experience right after college because my kind of mission was to navigate where I feel I fit in the art world and what really aligns with my passions. And with that, I actually found that I wanted to be working with living creativity and feel that spark rather than like the art historical narrative, right? And we were dealing with $300 million works of art. And for me, there was something lacking there, right? And so I ultimately shifted and moved to an art gallery in Brooklyn that was supporting emerging artists called Carrie Abel Gallery. It's located in Williamsburg. And Carrie Abel is an awesome multidisciplinary artist. She's actually having an exhibition at the next Venice Biennale. So she is really making it. She's a musician, songwriter, poet, painter, but she also is a virtual reality artist. So one day she invited me to go to this VR lab in the Bowery. And on Tuesdays, they close the lab for artists to come and explore virtual reality as an artistic medium. And so with that, I put on the headset and experienced one of her paintings. And I knew from that very moment that this was an insane, incredible, mind-blowing, cutting-edge medium. Like my first thought was, how is this going to be written in the art history books? This is going to be a new movement, and it's a new form of cutting-edge medium that is a new form of immersive experience for the viewer to have. And the interaction between the artwork and the viewer is completely different than, you know, the interaction between a painting and the viewer and that space between. Whereas with VR, and I'll kind of define it really quick, is a hardware. So you put on a headset and it's a digital immersive simulation where when you put on the headset, you're completely transported into a different place, whether it's an environment, there's games that you can play in VR, but you can also paint in VR and fully immerse yourself in painterly worlds that are magical, otherworldly. And that's where I saw the potential. And so with VR, it is a one-on-one experience, right? With the viewer, the headset, and whatever they're seeing in that piece. When you put on headphones, you're really just displaced from your physical setting. And I just found that to be so powerful because of all the stimulation we have and distractions in our world, to really have this sense of true concentration and interaction with something and nothing else is really, really fascinating. And so I knew I needed to integrate this into my painting practice. And with my oil paintings, I found that I'm always trying to create a dimension, an illusion of space on this 2D surface. And so I create this illusion of space through color relationships, changing scale within my painting, layering, and creating that depth. But I found that there's limitations to painting, right? And it's this 2D surface that you can't enter into. And I've always wanted to jump into my paintings as if they were portals and explore every facet of them and fly through them and, live in them because they're very bright, colorful, trippy. And I'm very inspired by sacred geometry, fractals, every color of the rainbow, but especially just the mysterious inner workings of my mind and uncovering that. With VR, it surpasses those limitations where I actually can put on the headset and paint three-dimensionally with digital paint that has different animated brushes that are even sound reactive. So when you play music, it'll pulse to the beat of the song that's playing in the background. And with that, I can actually bring my oil paintings, these 2D works of art, as the really impetus and inspiration for expanding those layers of paint in the digital realm so that people can actually be inside of these environments, which the paintings really unlock. And the VR is just the tool now for those people and everyone to be able to experience it in an immersive and spiritual and truly healing way. So it's been a really cool journey. And yeah, so after experiencing that one moment, putting on the headset for the first time at this VR lab, it was kind of this shift in my life where I knew New York wasn't sustainable for my art, for my wallet, for my bank account, mental health, you name it. And that I was really craving nature and had a calling to dive back into my art practice. And so it was a little over a year and I hadn't made any art in New York, but I was surrounded by so much art, which was wonderful. But I knew I needed to just really start exploring my own creativity. And so I decided to, move out of the city. As I was transitioning, I was actually working and managing this gallery booth for the Armory Art Fair in New York. And that's where I started chatting with this gentleman, and he came to the booth and was telling me about his new project that he's working on, a startup dealing with art and fintech. And I thought it was super interesting. And I shared my background of art and entrepreneurship. And we exchanged contact info. And he reached out that evening and said that he was interested in actually introducing me to the CEO of this company and talking about a potential job opportunity. And I thought this was a perfect moment. I'm, transitioning out of New York. And so I was very curious. And in the email, he said it deals with blockchain and art, blockchain technology. And I had no clue what blockchain technology was in 2018. but I did some Googling and I became really curious, and I entered into this meeting and we had some champagne at this art fair and it was great. We just chatted about, blockchain, the potential of blockchain for art, and the potential of me to actually work for this company called Look Lateral, and they're based in Italy and Seattle, to be their art and content manager. And because they knew my fine art background and working, in that kind of 1% of the art world, and saw my entrepreneurial background too. And so I actually started working for them. And let's define blockchain really quick before moving on.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. And so blockchain technology has emerged because of the desire for decentralization and creating more trust in different markets and really in our world. So for example, our banking system is a centralized system that the Federal Reserve is the orchestrator of, right? And so the whole premise of decentralization and blockchain is actually having servers, like computer servers, all over the world, creating a network that's decentralized, that these servers are communicating, and they create, every time something is added to this blockchain, this network, a new ledger that is added each time. So pretty much it's a digital ledger that can't be tampered with. It shows transparency because you can see the record of transactions over time, and there's no one controlling it. It's just computers, right? And so with that, the potential of blockchain for art is especially for provenance, right? So every time an artwork is in an exhibition or passes through a collector's hands, and how much that price was at the time, when it was sold on the secondary market, that can be all recorded into the blockchain and showing authenticity, also the creator of the piece, like who's the artist, the date, and its whole record of exhibitions and transactions to create more trust and in this market. And also it helps with fraud, right? And fakes, because you can actually put tags on embedded in a painting now or a sculpture. And there's different types of tags where it can be a nanoparticle crystal that is like sprinkled on a painting, or a string that can be woven into the canvas. It's super techy, but pretty much that can be scanned to authenticate that artwork physically, but onto the blockchain. And that link, that direct connection is huge.
So that's your certificate right there?
Yes.
Okay.
It's can't be tampered with, this certificate of authenticity, because it's on the blockchain, and it's nearly impossible, or pretty much so, to, for people to try to hack that, because they have to be verified on every single server. And so with Look Lateral, they were actually, and they're still, they're working on this project, tokenizing fine art, so that people can actually own a fraction of a Picasso painting, of a Monet, and diversify their portfolio that way, and also creating more liquidity in the market. So it's really fascinating, and I learned so much. And my whole role with that project was writing about the use cases of blockchain for art. So I worked with Look Lateral that entire time as I transitioned to Telluride. And my dad invited me to move out there, and he lives in a beautiful cabin. And the thing I kind of promised myself when I moved to Telluride was to be my biggest fan as I embarked on this creative journey, and not my harshest critic, and to let myself freely create, because I really didn't know what was going to unfold, right? And it was going to be a discovery process. So Telluride is an amazing community. It's Telluride, Colorado. It's in the mountains, population 2,500 people. And it's an amazing arts community, though. And it brings a really high culture, because every weekend in the summer, we have different festivals, from yoga festival, mushroom festival, film festival, Blues and Brews, you name it. And so every, weekend there's a different crowd coming through, and I just love it because it's so hard to get to and so immersed in nature that it really weeds people out. So it's like the best kept secret.
You just let it out, right?
I know, I just did, but everyone should explore it and really just, hike and experience their epic skiing and their high alpine lakes and paddle boarding. It's just amazing.
And it's a great place to go see color of leaves change.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite places to go. I've been there a handful of times, and the town is so quaint,
They've really maintained that mining town integrity, even though, it's inevitable that it's going to keep growing. And first week in October, I'd say is like the peak. So for anyone interested, that's definitely the time to come check it out.
And those aspen turn a bright, bright yellow. It's just gorgeous. It's a gorgeous town. And then you can ride the tram over the
gondola.
The gondola, thank you. The gondola over the mountain. It is.
Beautiful. And it's funny, when fall colors happen, I always feel a sense of overwhelm because it's so overwhelmingly beautiful, and I feel like I need to be frolicking in a forest all day because it's calling you, and it's like magnetic. So it's actually wild, just being surrounded by that much beauty. But it was really an incredible shift from New York to Telluride because I sacrificed, a huge part of my social life, but channeled that into my art and into my studio practice, where nature became my distraction. And that was really powerful. And so much time in nature, I think, really just helped me inform my art. And so, through Telluride Arts District, which is the nonprofit arts council there, I got a studio, which is called Voodoo Studio. There's 10 artists in there. I manage it now, which is great. And I received a grant to get my own virtual reality headset and a hardcore processing gaming laptop, because you hook up the VR headset to a computer, and the way you install it too is you actually have two sensors screwed to either side of the room that read every movement that you are, creating and moving in space, to see where you are in the room and how that translates through your headset into the virtual. My painting studio is, half messy painting studio, but then half virtual reality lab.
High tech.
Yeah.
lab.
On either sides of the room.
That's awesome. Can we talk about that real quick? What brand did you buy? I'm just kind of curious.
I have the HTC Vive, which I highly recommend. Oculus just came out with their newest wireless headset. That's, I think the lowest price is $299, which is, pretty good for this type of hardware. But granted, it is owned by Facebook, so that's just something to note. The laptop I have is an HP NVIDIA, and they're not compatible with MacBook yet, but Apple is working on currently their AR glasses, augmented reality glasses that will soon come to market. And I assume a headset because, who knows what they're working on, but that's something that once Apple produces a virtual reality headset, the adoption rate, I think, will start to rapidly increase.
As an artist, you have this headset on, you're looking at an open space, and yesterday you say your background for that is space. What are you seeing when you're painting? Do you have arms that are painting, or do you see a paintbrush, or is it just all of a sudden paint shows up? Can you talk about that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's pretty wild because when you put on the VR headset, first of all, you need a lot of space because you move around as you create, unless you're sitting down, and you can totally just bump into a wall, right? And I've done that a few times, but there's usually a grid that will show you your perimeter. When you set up your headset for the first time, you actually scan that perimeter so that it can tell you when you're about to run into a wall, which is helpful. So I use the painting software Google Tilt Brush, and it's incredible and it's pretty intuitive and people can just dive into it. And for me, like it's been this amazing exploration. So when I put on my headset and I have one controller in one hand and another in the other, I am completely immersed in blank space and I can choose my different environments that I want to paint in. I like to choose outer space. And when you have the headset on, you can't see your feet, your limbs. You just see two of the remote controllers in your hands floating in front of you. And so those sensors in my studio read, my movement and where I am in the space. What I do is I have a painting palette, which is my colors. And then I have different brushes with different effects. So some brushes are animated. There's a bubble brush, a fire brush, embers. There's one that you can actually like create 3D kind of sculptural forms. And so what I do is I select the brush I want to play with, and then using I'm right-handed, so my right controller, I hold down the trigger button, which allows me to start painting. And it's painting really sculpturally 3D with digital paint. So the digital paint can be transparent, can be opaque. And like I said, some are sound reactive. So if I'm playing some great songs in the background, it will pulse to the beat of the music and come alive in a different way. So with my VR practice, it's like you're creating your own world right before you, in front of your very eyes, in real time, and all around you, where you can actually create and be immersed in this environment. And you can shrink yourself down to a chipmunk or scale yourself to the size of a dinosaur. There's a scale. It's chipmunk dinosaur. And
that's the actual scale.
Yeah, it is.
So today I'm a chipmunk, tomorrow I'm a dinosaur.
Totally. So it's pretty amazing. Like, for example, I created this virtual reality piece for the Mushroom Festival in Telluride that you could actually enter into like this mushroom house, and there's wildflowers everywhere and a waterfall. So you could shrink yourself down to this chipmunk size to enter into the mushroom, right? And if you make yourself a dinosaur, you're just like huge and standing looking over this tiny little like diorama. And so it's fun to play with scale. It's really helped me as an artist who is always trying to create this illusion of 3D on a 2D surface, think more spatially and sculpturally. Even though I'm creating in the digital realm, it's as if I'm creating installation. That has really informed me about new types of projects I'm working on that deal with installation. And so it's really amazing to look back at my journey and see how these new cutting edge mediums that I'm exploring are informing future projects, of course.
Quick question about this whole experience. You said that there's different environments. Is it anything under the sun that you can paint in?
In Tilt Brush, there's only a few. There's like a mountain scene. There's just a dark sky with, your ground. So you have some orientation. You can choose just a solid color, but outer space is the coolest.
And then my other question is, are they constantly updating this stuff? So do they have additional like plugins, add-ons that you can incorporate all the time?
Good question. Tilt Brush just went open source, which is a huge deal. So they pretty much released the program to anyone who wants to add to it. So now artists are creating their own brushes through a program called Unity, which is used to make video games. So they can create any type of digital brush they want and bring it into this open brush. They call it open brush now. And people are even creating multiplayer platforms where you and someone from London can paint in the same virtual space and collaborate. And I think it's really cool that it's been opened up for artists to take the reins and help this platform evolve.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And
it
it's
is amazing.
Such a cool thing, that you could be collaborating with somebody halfway across the world.
Yeah. I mean, it's been incredible. Like with the pandemic and lockdown, VR was a huge savior for me because you put on the headset and you can explore different worlds. You can travel, you can connect. I have been part of many virtual reality art exhibitions where there's virtual reality galleries that you can access via your desktop or a headset. And with that, I met, people from London, Dubai, but all in this place from the comfort of my home. And it's pretty fascinating to think about being an avatar, right? And connecting with real people and having a digital skin, and where race, gender doesn't really come into the first thing you see when you meet someone. And so you connect, as cheesy as it sounds, on a soul level. And just think that's a really interesting thing where you could be a mushroom avatar, right? And someone is a tiger, right? But you're human and you're interacting and you're talking about art in an exhibition. And I've made many virtual relationships that have translated, into my life and into the physical realm. So I think technology is an amazing tool for human connection. And yes, there's a dark side, but we really need to tap into the ways we can utilize technology to expand our minds and expand our own global consciousness and connectivity, especially during these times of quarantine. Many organizations, because VR collaboration is a huge passion of mine, I've collaborated with nonprofits, educational platforms, festivals, musicians, and scientists. And when the lockdown happened, many different organizations came to me to think about ways they could pivot and innovate, because with travel halted, live music and festivals being shut down and schools closing, it's like, how can we bring more light through this technology and merging it with art? So, for example, when Burning Man was closed this year, and they decided to actually take it to the virtual multiverse, that was the theme, ironically, and very fitting. So many digital artists created virtual worlds that were virtual playas, and different artists, brought in their digital installations. And so I actually worked with a Burning Man camp called the Dang Gang, and I've stayed with them for 2 years, the 2 years I went to Burning Man. And the Dang Gang also has an art car, which is a Japanese junk boat inspired art car. There's 2 giant, fire-breathing dragons on either side. It's 2 stories. There's a huge lounge in the first story. The second one is a huge dance floor and a DJ booth and a giant Buddha. And there's a giant sail that is super high. And it's a cool art car. So I worked with the owner of the art car and another artist, the Sabby Life, who is an incredible VR artist. She does tons of work for Pixar and Disney. And we actually collaborated to recreate this Dang Gang art car in virtual reality. So Sabby 3D modeled it and got the basic structure. And then I brought it into Tilt Brush and embellished it. And we created a daytime version and a nighttime version. And the nighttime version was neon and just really, really fun. And then we took it to a virtual reality party where we imported it, and people from all over the world could party on the Dang Gang from the comfort of their home. And we had live DJs who were playing, and live VJ, which is a visual jockey controlling the environment, the lights. And it was a cool experience. Another collaboration was, I am a member of Beyond Coral Foundation, which is a coral reef restoration initiative. And they're also partnered with Aura, Ocean Rescue Alliance, and 1,000 Mermaids. And they're actually, Aura and 1,000 Mermaids are creating underwater artificial reef sculptures. So they're actually scanning people's bodies, turning them into mermaids, submerging them to the bottom of the ocean. And as they grow coral, baby corals, they can replant them on these coral reefs underwater, and naturally coral will begin to grow and it becomes almost like an underwater art gallery. And so Beyond Coral, the founder of it, is actually right now working on building and patenting this robot called Charm. It's a coral farming robot that is almost like a 3D printer, and it's completely automated, where it is growing baby corals and the robot cleans them with almost like a little toothbrush, just scrubbing the algae so that scientists don't have to do that anymore. And they can actually do just their research and not spend so many hours maintaining these baby corals. And so this is going to turn into an ecotourism experience where people can learn about the coral and how they are growing it, and then take excursions to plant them on underwater reefs. So Beyond Coral is based in Tulum, and they're creating a chapter in Australia right now. They have been working with the Mexican government to obtain this lighthouse that's abandoned and turned it into an ocean research center. And it's right next to the Mayan ruins on the coast. So with COVID and travel being halted, their plans were also postponed. So I worked with this intern for Beyond Coral, who is a freshman at MIT right now, and the founder, and we recreated Tulum in virtual reality with this lighthouse. It's on a social VR platform, so people can, be an avatar, enter into this world, learn about coral reef restoration, actually pick up different corals and plant them on these artificial reefs. There's a cenote, there's a tiki bar. It's a really cool experience. There's even a piano you can play in the lighthouse. And so, I just love the idea of collaborating using this technology for like multidisciplinary creations. And for example, I mentioned that I work with scientists. I actually met the scientist probably 2 years ago, and I was at a bar in Telluride, and you never know who you're going to meet in Telluride. So many people, cool people come there. And we started talking, and he was, with a group of scientists for a conference. And I told them about what I do and VR and painting, and they were so fascinated. And I love inviting people back to my studio so they can try it and try painting for themselves. And with that, the entire group came and learned about VR. And actually, one of the scientists bought one of my paintings, which was great. After that, I, met with that scientist. His name's Hosea. And even though we speak different languages, he is so high level scientific. His lab at UCLA is called the Nelson Lab, and they have a $2 million electron microscope, and that can see things to the molecule or even further. And for me, I think abstractly, right? Colors and shapes. And so it's really that space in between where we can help each other out and bridge that gap through collaboration to bring his science to more lay people and make it beautiful and intriguing and approachable. So we've collaborated where I've recreated his research in VR, and we've created science journal covers that have been published for his research in different magazines. And it's been really cool. And I just love collaboration because it expands my creative horizons and, past what I'm comfortable with. And so it's just been a really cool journey in that way.
That's amazing. So these collaborations that you're doing, and they all sound, fantastic. Do you make money from them, or some of them are just projects of passion and you want to be a part of it and it's just part of who you are? Or are you getting paid for all this work that you do?
Yeah, I get paid unless it's, collaborations between artists. That's usually where I just love to collaborate with artists, especially musicians, where either I provide them my virtual reality visuals and they create music to it, or vice versa. And it's cool because if the musician gives me music, I create the visuals to that music. And so it's a different type of relationship, which way we're approaching it from. And yeah, with the scientists and Burning Man and working with festivals, I absolutely get paid. And what I found though is with virtual reality, there are its limitations, and that's the hardware itself and this one-on-one experience of the viewer immersed in the art piece. And what I found is I wanted people as a collective to be able to experience this digital art in the physical realm. And that's where I turned to augmented reality. And so augmented reality, I'll kind of define it real quick, is pretty much, think of it as a Snapchat filter or Pokemon Go, that game, where you're using your mobile device as a tool to superimpose digital aspects onto our physical realm. And it's pretty incredible because it can enhance physical objects in our space or be standalone, right? And you can anchor it to actually like a location and use your mobile device to explore that digital artwork just floating in space, but it's anchored to the ground pretty much. And what I found is another form of augmented reality is projection and projection mapping. And with projection mapping, I use the Lightform kit, which is hardware that you attach to a projector, and it 3D scans your space. And with that scan, there's software to it as well, where you import that scan into your computer and you can overlay video content onto the 3D scan. It's pretty fantastic. Like with, let's say we want to project onto a sculpture. You don't want to project a full rectangular, square that the projector produces naturally. You want just the projection on certain elements of that sculpture. So that's why projection mapping is so powerful, is it brings certain elements to light through the illumination of, video content and so on. And so I create video content in virtual reality. So once I create a 3D environment of, inspired by one of my oil paintings or just like a mindscape, a landscape just from my mind, I use my remote controller as my video camera. And I see a little screen floating above my controller. And I actually move and walk through my environment and record it. And it's amazing because once I watch those recordings, I see things that I didn't even mean to create and beautiful structures and patterns. And it gets so trippy because I just am creating the foundation in the environment. But then when I explore it through this lens of this recorder, I see so many new things. And it just, it takes a mind of its own almost. And so that's how I create my visuals for projection and project them onto different objects and so on. And so I love doing projection for festivals. I have done tons for the Fire Festival in Telluride, Original Thinkers, and a reclaimed old mine in Telluride that's turned into artist studios. And it's this amazing artist collective and nonprofit called the Deep Creek Mine. And I just did my biggest projection installation at a full moon festival in Moab, Utah on BLM land. And I projected onto 2 massive rock formations. And we brought generators and had really powerful projectors. And we should have done it on a new moon because the full moon was super bright. But it was magical. And for me, it really inspired me to start exploring integrating these technological mediums with nature more. So I'm actually I kind of have the itch to just buy a generator, get a really amazing projector, and travel with it to project in forests and in water and on snow and different type of natural elements and create unique experiences, and bringing the tech back into nature. And it was really amazing. I met an artist at the show this weekend at the Bridge Project, and he does projection as well, but it's the flip-flop. He projects natural forms onto cityscapes, so onto skyscrapers, and bringing nature back into like the concrete jungle. And so I just thought that was a really cool contrast between our work.
That is so cool. What is the learning curve for all this technology? I mean, you're young, and it seems like younger people, I see my children, they just take to it. Like it's natural to them.
Right. I noticed that too. I mean, at the art show, which was showcasing my augmented reality enabled oil paintings, I gave my phone, which has an app to scan the paintings to see the digital components, to this little girl, and she got it right away. It was second nature to her. And it was just so funny to see how that younger generation, it's just, so fluid and not intimidating. And with the older generation, there is an element of education and hand-holding, and I'm happy to help in any way I can to give people this experience. And yeah, with the learning curve, you can't really learn this in school right now. It's so new, emerging. There's not many, academic curriculums out there, and there will be. But I really just am an advocate and proponent for finding a community, like a Facebook group of XR artists, and there's plenty out there, like VR Art Live or the XR Artist Collective. You can find them on Facebook. And many of them have tutorials from YouTube, and for you to learn, by yourself independently, but rely on a community to help guide you if you have any specific questions. So for me, this whole journey has been, diving in my personal time to learn. And there's so many other programs I want to learn. And so I need to pick and choose because there's a lot. And they're all so cool,
Yeah. Is it overwhelming at times? Just like all the things that are being...
Totally.
It seems like it snowballs, right? Once something like actually people gravitate towards something, boom, it's on, right?
Yeah. And the space is moving so fast. New technologies just keep emerging, new programs, new platforms. And for me, it's really just holding on to this belief that I don't have to do it all and I'm enough, right? And I do have that as an anchor that just because I can't animate to my fullest abilities, that's okay. That's where collaboration comes in, where I can work with another artist to create this something that I don't have the skills to actually do in this moment.
I love what you just said there, because I think a lot of times, and we're having more and more talks about technology in different ways, right? But a lot of times people think that technology is taking away from who we are, but really it connects us. It seems to me like this is just a natural evolution of who we are, and it's going to be incorporated in every facet of your lives at one point or another, right? So instead of shunning it and being fearful of it, really we should be embracing it. And it's just, like you said, another way to connect, especially during this time of COVID. But the collaboration and having that connection, that human connection, whether it's face-to-face or in the VR world, right? It still has its place, and it still connects us.
Absolutely. And I really think that's why I decided to venture into augmented reality, because immersive experiences for people to experience at once as a group is powerful for having this connective experience. And so I just think that there is, a dark side to technology as well. And cybersecurity is huge. And I feel like we're almost like a guinea pig right now, going in blindly with the whole internet age and Web 3.0 emerging. So
what is Web 3.0? Let me just stop you right there. So that
Web 3.0 is the age of information. Okay. And so with that, there's something called the metaverse that's forming in the digital realm. And pretty much it's worlds being created in virtual spaces. And many of them actually are geospatially mapped over our planet so that people can buy plots of land with specific addresses tied to our physical world and build virtual retail, virtual galleries, virtual concert halls in the metaverse. And for an economy, it's going to start emerging. And many of these virtual worlds are actually built on the blockchain for people to prove ownership of a plot of land. And so virtual real estate is actually a new emerging booming market. And so for crypto art collectors, which we'll get into, they're building virtual galleries to house their digital art collections.
So there's a multitude of things that you can do with this.
Possibilities are endless.
Right. So if I'm a musician, so if I'm the Flaming Lips, right, I could have my own concert venue that lives virtually where we go and see the Flaming Lips, right?
Totally.
And sell our own tickets to our own venue.
Talk about frictionless, right?
That's crazy.
As in that touring, is such a cost and an environmental impact, and you're only tapping into one audience at one time, but bringing it into the metaverse, you're able to tap into a global network, and it's just going to be widely more adopted. And with these younger generations, it's going to be, like I said, second nature. And I mean, you can't beat human physical connection, but the metaverse is something just to be aware of. And it's happening right now as we speak, but, in the virtual realm. And I really enjoy going to virtual exhibitions, virtual museums, virtual comedy shows, virtual networking meetups, and panel discussions. And so I do straddle both worlds. And that's what I do with my paintings as well. And so I can share a little bit about my process with that if you'd like.
So I got a question.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about buying real estate, or not buy, well, we're talking about real estate in the virtual world, right? And, if you buy, let's say a gallery here in Denver, it's going to cost you a lot of money. So if I open a gallery in the virtual world, do I pay somebody for a virtual space?
Yeah,
Okay.
And it's pretty expensive. I mean, right now it's better to get in early than later, but yeah, plots of land, depending where they're located in a virtual world. I don't want to butcher the numbers, but they're steep.
Yeah. See, and I find that unfortunate because, in the real world, or, what we're experiencing now, it's prohibitive sometimes to buy a house. Like I like to move to Denver now. I'm going to drop a lot of coin to buy a house in Denver or an apartment downtown, right? So you have this virtual space that is, vastless. It's vastless. It's as big as you want. But if you have to actually purchase property from some entity, I think that's prohibitive of really democratizing the space and actually working against what I think would be an explosion of this virtual reality.
But
Any thoughts on that?
Anyone can create a world.
Okay.
It just depends who you want, if you want traction to be in that virtual environment, right? With retail and stuff.
Right.
And so anyone can create worlds, and also there's worlds that aren't on the blockchain and aren't selling property. It's just I'm talking about one silo to the metaverse.
Okay.
And there's other ones like social VR platforms, which are, free to access, and any artist can create a world and import it, and people can explore it. And for example, over COVID, with the founder of Beyond Coral, my friend Steven, we went on a lighthouse tour. We hopped around VR Chat, which is a social VR platform with different types of worlds. And we explored every world that existed in VR Chat that had a lighthouse, and, took notes, what we liked, how we wanted to use that to build the Tulum one. So yeah, there's different layers to it.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. But when I hear that like this property in this one silo is really expensive, it just kind of reinforces this idea like, we're dealing with, and we're going to take a little rabbit hole here, and we'll be brief about it. But the minority population has not been able to buy property at the same rate as, let's say, white America, if you will. Once again, if we go into this virtual world and it's only people that have money that can afford to build in this specific silo, I think that's becomes a limiting factor. So it's nice to hear that there are potentials. Like if I wanted to build a metaverse or whatever, I can do that. And then completely like the land is free. It's like the Oklahoma land rush, right? You carry your stick, you hit go and you plant your stick somewhere and that's your land for free, or in, the frontiers in Alaska where you were given a plot of land if you came up there. So it's reassuring to hear, because when you first started talking, I was like, oh my God. So now we're going to spend a select group of people are going to spend a lot of money to have this amazing VR experience or augmented reality experience, but it doesn't allow the average person to experience.
But it's public. So people can venture into these galleries, and retail. And it's also, if someone buys a plot of land that mirrors Times Square, because I said a lot of these platforms are geospatially mapping our physical environment, that would be more, expensive versus a plot of land in Oklahoma. Okay. So that's another kind of way to think about it.
Okay. Anyway, thanks for clarifying that.
Totally.
So, and indulge me in my little rabbit hole.
I love going down rabbit holes.
Yeah. So let's talk about where you were going next.
New Magazine is our media sponsor for the Tenet podcast. That's NUE. You can follow both the national and the Denver edition of New Magazine on Instagram. The national edition can be found at new_magazine and the Denver edition at new_Denver_magazine. Look to New for compelling stories from the world of art and fashion. Thanks for listening.
So let's talk about where you were going next.
Yeah. So I create augmented reality enabled oil paintings. So like I said, I'm straddling the digital and physical realms, and even my studio is half painting, half VR lab. And so with that, my painting process is very intuition based. So when I have a white blank canvas standing before me, I really just dive into it and create random acts and different types of brush strokes and utilize tape to cover things up. But really, I am diving into the unknown and embracing it and trusting my intuition and reacting to what I put on canvas. I sometimes try to create color, structure, and restraint, but I usually break away from that and incorporate every color of the rainbow. And so when things get pretty chaotic, because I shift between order and chaos, I usually superimpose elements of structure, symmetry, geometry to make cohesion in my piece. And for me, painting is such a philosophy of life, of practicing non-attachment. I paint over my paintings. Probably every painting has like 7 layers to it. And my mom gets so frustrated because she'll send me a picture of, a stage in one of my paintings and said, what happened to this painting? And it's gone. But that's okay, because I just think that's such an important part of life, is not to hold things too precious, because it can actually hold you back. And also just trusting your intuition and enjoying the journey. It's all about the journey and arriving at that destination, but not the destination itself. So I don't usually have a final image in mind for what I want to create. Then when I finish one of my oil paintings, I take a picture of it and import it into my virtual reality headset. And so that's kind of stage 2, where I decide to create either a digital model inspired by that 2D painting or a 3D digital environment. And so when I put on my headset, I open my painting program, Tilt Brush, import the photo. And so when I'm standing in space, all I see is that painting JPEG floating in front of me. And using my remote controls, I can even color pick to get the same exact colors. And I use different brushes to literally paint off the canvas into 3D space and create structure and expand those layers of paint and create, immersive environments. And once I feel that I've captured the essence of that painting in the virtual realm, that's when I either film it and create these VR videos for projection, or I create an augmented reality experience. And so with AR, what I'm doing is bringing this virtual piece back into the physical realm and linking that physical painting to the virtual reality painting. And since I'm painting on the canvas in VR on a JPEG, the dimensions remain the same, the ratios. And so I use an app called Arise, but there's many AR apps out there, and I am working to eventually create my own augmented reality app so I don't have to use a third-party source. So what I do is I link the image of the painting to the 3D digital model, where that image becomes the QR code. So when you open the app on your phone and it opens the camera will scan the painting as if it's a QR code and will link that digital model onto the painting. And so that's kind of how my process of creating these digital pieces. And for me, I just love it because when you look at a painting, like I said, there's this space in between. And with AR paintings, you're able to use your mobile device to explore the digital side of the piece as if it's like a magnifying glass, and you can move in and out and like check out all the nooks and crannies. And it's a new type of interaction, and you get to be closer to the art. And so, yeah, I call them trippy toys because they're, for my collectors who have them in their homes, it's such a great little party trick to blow people's minds and just be like, hey, look at this. It's been really fun to share this. And I love seeing people interact with the digital components. And I mean, it kind of mirrors that each of us as human beings have our own digital identities, right? That kind of run parallel with our physical humanity. And so like our digital identities, I don't know if you've seen The Social Dilemma on Netflix, but it speaks about us having these virtual avatars. And within that is all of our data, what we read, what we subscribe to, who we follow, what we like, and what we search. And that's packaged and commoditized, and also who we try to portray ourselves as social media. And, this kind of superficial brand in some ways that can be positive or negative. But, we have a digital persona. And so it's fun to think that these paintings also live on a virtual plane of existence. And with NFTs, which we'll talk about, it's also pretty fascinating to think that my physical art, like my paintings, are collected and exist, on this physical market and secondary market. But meanwhile, my virtual art, my digital art that can now be collected thanks to the emergence of NFTs, also lives on this virtual secondary market. So my pieces are living on two planes, existing on two planes. And I also work to bridge that, existence in different ways.
It's incredibly exciting.
It is. Yeah.
So artists should not fear this. They should actually be embracing this, because this is just another way to extend yourself, extend your art into another realm. And I would imagine, and we're going to talk about this, you can monetize it in multiple ways.
Yeah. And for artists who are interested in getting into this medium, if you live in a city, there's probably a virtual reality lab that is accessible that you could explore Google Tilt Brush. And that's the platform I recommend trying out first. And I know in New York and LA and the main cities, they have them. I don't know, the situation with COVID, but also, a $300 Oculus headset, even though it's owned by Facebook, if you're using it for painting, I think it's a great intro way to get into it. And just by, for artists to explore different mediums, your personal style still shines through. It's just translated in different forms. And so for me, venturing into VR and other mediums, it's just mind expanding because I get to evolve my artwork on, new paths, but it still holds true to my essence.
It's so cool.
It is cool. It's taken me a couple weeks to like kind of wrap my head around it. And I still don't really have a great grasp of it, but I'm starting to realize the potential and even like trying to figure out how can I get involved and, and explore this whole new thing and it's just the evolution of how things are going to come about. I mean, we embrace technology. It's just going to grow exponentially. So what we're seeing here as the birth of this is going to look probably totally different and bigger, let's say 3 years from now.
Yeah, I recommend the book Independent Sovereign to read, and it explores starting with Web 1.0 and how we're evolving and what the future will look like. And it's pretty fascinating because blockchain technology, this concept of decentralization, where we are removing third-party intermediaries to become more independent sovereigns and bring the power back to the people, is going to be intertwined into every aspect of our life. And for artists, this new type of technology with NFTs, putting art on the blockchain, is really empowering. And it's a new digital renaissance that we're experiencing right now. And that's why I consider myself a pioneer in this space, because I am using these new artistic mediums that are usually digital to push the boundaries, set precedent, do what's never been done before. And it's all adding to this historical arc narrative of the whole art evolution throughout time. And so this is just a natural progression. And, with AI too, it's fascinating. Talk about the world, where the world is headed. And now AI is even creating art, coding can create art. And so, yeah, like should we dive into NFTs or do you guys have any questions?
Well,
first?
I'm always looking at the flip side, and I don't want to go down. I don't want to go down the deep dive, but I want people to think about, every time we have something that's really wonderful, there's people out there doing nefarious acts.
Totally.
In fact, there's one of the, and it's not Bitcoin, but one of the creators of cryptocurrency has just fled Turkey and took a lot of money from the investors, if we will. I just read that this morning. So, and once again, I don't really want to go down this rabbit hole because, anyway, but I want my listeners to think, or our listeners to think, well, let me delve into this because this is amazing stuff. And Brooke, I think you're brilliant.
Thank you.
What you're doing and how you're doing it. And we'll get into more of this with your projects. It's just mind blowing to me. And I'm excited that we're here. So, but for people that are listening, really be informed, because once we decentralize, there's always somebody that wants to control it. So who will that be? Will it be a government? Will it be China? As big as they are, will Russia try to get involved? With the United States try to squash it? Because there's legislation or attempt of legislations too.
I mean, the tech is rapidly evolving more so than the law,
Right.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
Because I had this discussion with my wife who works in finance. We were debating this whole thing yesterday. She looks at reports all the time and, making sure that everything is above board and nobody's doing anything nefarious. And if there is something nefarious, then she has to generate a report and then it gets sent to the, powers that be to investigate it. Right. But I said, I just don't think that laws, regulations, and government entities are going to be able to keep up because the technology is kind of like we said at the beginning of the podcast. It's evolving so fast that to I mean, what you're doing right now, 10 years from now, will look nothing like this, right? I mean, we've seen it time and time again as, computers have come into our lives and smartphones and iPads and everything else, tablets, everything else that we interact with now. That it's completely different than what it was, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I love your philosophical approach to it or your ideology. I love that you're just embracing it and you're not getting hung up. And I think this is where technology hangs a lot of people up. They get hung up like, I got to know everything. But it's so vast. It's just like Photoshop, because we both use Photoshop all the time, right? All the Adobe programs. It's so vast, you'll never know everything about the program. And you're always figuring out something new. And there's 10 different ways to do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't get hung up on that. If you're interested in it, you should just go explore it, right?
Right.
I mean, do we truly know how the internet works?
Well, not on the surface, right? We have a cursory understanding of it, but we don't, when we're going to Eddie Bauer or whatever, we're not thinking about our transaction and how that's being, or, we're searching, images on Google or whatever platform.
We just trust it.
Yeah, we do.
And so with blockchain, if that underlies, every technological the foundation of every, with the internet, and that's like with Web 3.0, the trust is there, and the traceability. And so, the ability for it to be immutable, can't be tampered with. And we are the holders of our, private key. When you have a crypto wallet, you have a private key, public key. Public key is like your email address. Private key is like your social security number. But yeah, so I just think it's really fascinating because it's like, do we truly know how the internet works? No, but we use it, and it's now intertwined and ingrained in every aspect of our life. And like, look at with the emergence of iPhones, how that has created a renaissance in itself of creativity. We're each now our own photographers. We don't need, amazing, crazy cameras. And, we have information and knowledge at our fingertips. And like, I think of NFTs in this way as a new form of renaissance that's about to take off. And it's funny you say, Todd, that technology will always become obsolete, right? And that things are always just moving forward and innovation is inevitable. I was just recently on a 3-week journey after that Full Moon Fest projection experience. And I was in LA and in San Francisco for tons of meetings for a project I'm working on. And I met with this artist who just fascinated me. And a woman who's a senior TEDx fellow connected us because I'm giving a TED Talk in October in Vail, which will be really great. But he is working on a project where he has created a parallel universe. He calls our universe linear. And I can't pronounce the universe he's created. It's like Zemanthropozine. And he has traveled the world and he's created a narrative about this universe. Traveled a world, even bought land through eBay or working with individuals to place these markers, which are metal plaques, to mark specific points on our globe to tell the narrative of this parallel universe. Because in his mindset, all technology will become obsolete, but these markers are here to stay. And, for future civilizations, he's leaving all these Easter eggs, pieces to a puzzle that is this type of legacy that won't become obsolete. And it's an 18-year project. He's still working on it. And he's created his own dialect, his own alphabet. And it was just so amazing to hear his dedication, his scale, spanning the globe. And it's a really huge inspiration for the project I'm working on because it is global as well and installation based. So I love what you said about technology and how it's rapidly evolving. And, our physical creations are here to stay.
So let's talk about where you're headed with all
Yeah.
this, incorporating all this technology
Yeah.
and this this phenomenal idea that you have.
Thank you. So let's rewind back to March 2020, right before quarantine and COVID happened. I had my first solo exhibition in Telluride at a gallery, and it was featuring my series of augmented reality enabled oil paintings. And the opening was a hit. It was a huge success. I look back on those photos though, and so many people in a singular space, we had no clue about COVID and just the risk of super spreader events, but no word of COVID at that exhibition, which was great. But 2 weeks later, the exhibition closed, the gallery closed, and, we were all put into isolation and quarantine. And I saw this post on Facebook. Telluride has a marketplace called Sweet Deals, and it's a platform where people who don't want items or want to sell things will post about it. And I saw this post about free doors, and they were reclaimed. And I just thought it was an interesting medium to work with. And portals are a huge theme in my artwork. I think of my paintings as portals, and in VR, I create portals into different dimensions. And so this was just a natural progression for me to work with physical doors. And the plan is to paint them and projection map onto them and create this installation of portals. And so I picked up these doors, took them home. And from that point, doors started coming back into my life in weird ways. And I saw so many more posts about doors on Facebook and picked them up. And I actually have 80 doors in my backyard right now, working towards 100. And I really just took the time to meditate about what doors mean during these times, because I think the collecting of doors is a reaction for me of these times of what's going on behind closed doors and being truly isolated as individuals, but as a collective on a global scale. And how powerful that is, because we're each going on these inward journeys, going within, and they're, personal transformations happening at different levels. Some people are realizing, their relationships aren't going too hot, or that their job or career path doesn't feel in alignment with their passion and purpose. And, so on, self-actualization and diving back into creativity and having micro or metamorphoses. And so doors also have such amazing sacred meaning and cultural contexts, and doors in different geographical locations, and the architecture is all different. And we each have one or many seminal stories in our life where one door is closed and another has opened. And it's shifting from the darkness and into the light. But through that doorway, you're truly stepping into the unknown. And it's been really amazing. Like, as I have begin embarking on this project, my mantra has been to thrive in the unknown, embrace the unknown. And I always see now as every decision I make as a doorway, right? Saying yes to something or saying no to something can open different doors and different paths. And it's also not hard to open doors for people, right? We each have gotten to where we are today a lot of the time from people opening doors for us. And it's just something to really reflect about. Like, what are those pivotal moments in your life of transition that you look back and maybe you experience trauma, adversity, illness, or that life decision of taking the leap into the unknown and following your painting, passion. And I also encourage you to, think about those points and also those people that have opened doors for you and how you can open doors for other people. my dad, as I was collecting these doors, and I live with him in Telluride, and we're close, and we've been to Burning Man together, and it's a fun, roommate situation. And he gifted me a book on Cristo, who's this amazing installation artist who was a visionary of his time. It's interesting because the art collector I used to work with in New York was a patron of his. And he thought scale, he thought impact, he thought global. And I mean, the scale of his projects were unparalleled, that he would wrap an entire island and that would become the installation. And only his drawings were what remained because they were short term, and the projects were mainly self-funded. And I love what he said. He actually came to Telluride 15 years ago to do a talk at a gallery. And a few people have shared this with me because his talk really just impacted their life, and that, you know, he had to deal with so many lawyers and lawsuits about these installations in nature and so much pushback and flack. And that he said that's part of the art. That's a part of its existence. That's a part of the process. And he embraced it because it's just adding to this medium. And I just thought that's really amazing to have that outlook. But yeah, so the plan is, and I've received a grant from Telluride Arts to begin this door installation and an artist residency at Camp V. And that is in between Telluride and Moab, Utah. And it's in Natarita, Colorado, super rural community. But Camp V has 110 acres there. It is a new, really glamping experience that they're bridging and bringing together so many artists to come and utilize the space as a blank canvas to create amazing installations. And they just had the unveiling of this incredible installation by this artist, Obi, who is a longtime burner, like OG burner. And he built one of his Burning Man installations on Camp V's property that is a wind chapel. So it's like this outdoor chapel that's kind of prairie themed. There's a giant organ at the front of the chapel, and that organ is linked to a huge windmill. So when the windmill blows and spins, it actually plays music. And it's a great venue space if anyone wants a wedding or party. But yeah, so I have an artist residency coming up to build this 100-door installation. And I really see every door as being painted and freestanding in space, kind of like monoliths. So you would have this one-on-one interaction with every door, and to incorporate local artists and our communities to come and paint some of these doors. And with this 100-door installation, every door will have a unique puzzle piece cut out, extracted from it. And so when I put all those pieces together, and they'll be double-sided and wooden, it'll form a 100-piece wooden puzzle. And we won't know what the image will look like until it's combined and assembled, which I really love, right? It's all about the unknown. And so this project is it's called the Unknown Zone. And doorways as a symbol of that, but also there's so much more to this. And this project has really evolved into something super global, super meta, bridging the physical, the virtual, and the NFT collectible realm. And also it's framed in environmental and social stewardship and targeted to supporting emerging artists and marginalized communities and those who are underrepresented in our art world and underrecognized. So with these 100-door physical installations and the 100-piece puzzle that will be extracted from it, I'll be auctioning that puzzle off to support the local artists who contributed, as well as the social and environmental causes we want to support that are connected to the land that the installation is sitting on. And after I read this book on Cristo, it really inspired me to think and shoot for the moon, because why not? We have, this one time on Earth, and like, why not try to use your imagination to take you places and embrace hard things and that discomfort. And there's a great quote I love, that discomfort is the currency of your dreams. And that living in this place of the unknown and of discomfort expands your creative horizons. And that's where growth happens, in that space of discomfort. And so for me, I really embrace that. And with this project, it kind of fuels me, because I want to create this impact and exponential growth and community. So this installation at Camp V of 100 Doors is the Genesis installation. And I'll be creating one of these 100-door installations on every continent. And we'll be creating a documentary about it. And whether it's a 6-series or 7-series documentary, I'm still figuring that out. But I've met with an amazing award-winning documentary filmmaker. And it's funny because when we met and grabbed a coffee, he lives in Telluride, I said, I want to do 6 continents, not Antarctica. And he said, why not Antarctica? And someone did kind of mention it's pretty nearly impossible to do something like that there. But lo and behold, he created a documentary in Antarctica filming this sailor. And it's an inspirational story. But there's a station in Antarctica that works with artists. And so we might be putting some doors in Antarctica, which would be the final installation of the phase 1 of this project, and truly the icing on the cake, like no pun intended. Right. So that was a cool discovery to see that it is possible, right? So that's the physical part of this project, of the unknown zone. And a huge part of my practice, is bridging physical and virtual through these new technological mediums to create new forms of experiences, new forms of connection, and new forms of community. And in November of 2020, we'll rewind a sec, that's where I learned about NFTs. And I saw this call for art, this amazing VR artist I'm close with, who lives in Miami. Her name's Lover Worldwide. We all go by our, aliases in this space.
I need to create an alias, Todd.
Yeah, start brainstorming. I mean, it's kind of like your Burning Man Playa name, but, your virtual alias. Yeah. And she put out this call for art, was creating a exhibition in virtual reality of NFTs. And I knew about NFTs, but I was kind of intimidated to dive in at first. And I saw this opportunity as a way to venture into the space. And I really appreciated that she was educating us and helping us onboard and create our first NFT. So we had a few Zoom sessions. She sent me some links on how to create my crypto wallet. And I minted my first NFT through this exhibition. And it was a really cool exhibition in VR. There was a main gallery, and then you saw everyone's, image of their artwork in the gallery. But in front of my image of my piece that was inspired by one of my original oil paintings, and it was a 3D model of that original oil painting. So it was kind of like a sacred geometry cube fractal thing. There was a portal in front of my piece. And so for people who are, in the form of avatars, could jump into that portal and be transported to a different world where they saw my virtual reality 3D model artwork floating on an island, because it was Miami themed. And people could interact and stick their head in the artwork and just be alone with that piece and experience it. And that was just amazing. Fast forward to February of 2021. And that's where I learned about Clubhouse, which is this social audio platform. It's only available right now to iPhone users. They're expanding to Android this summer. and it's invite only, and it's amazing. There's different themed rooms. You enter into a room. It's like a TED Talk or a radio show in real time where you can engage and participate, or you can sit in the audience and just tune in. And everyone has a profile, and it's just global perspectives all at once on a singular platform. And there's no really superficiality, right? It's just people talking, sharing perspectives, knowledge, news, experiences. It's a great place to network. And so it's actually turned into like the hub and knowledge source for NFTs. And before I go any further, I'll just kind of define what an NFT is. NFT stands for non-fungible token. And non-fungible means that it's unique. Okay, so our US dollar is fungible in that if I have $1 and I have another dollar, they're the same, right? I can exchange them for both. With non-fungible things, it's as if the Mona Lisa painting is non-fungible. It's the unique asset. And yeah, there's a million prints or billion prints, of it in the world and on the internet. And you won't exchange that print for that physical asset because that's a unique one of one. So you can think of NFTs as a digital certificate of authenticity. And never before has digital art, especially, been able to be collected like a fine art physical asset. Because never before were we able to prove who created it, who owns it, what's the original, and ascribing value and recording that value to that asset. And so NFTs are built on the blockchain. And when you purchase an NFT, you're purchasing that certificate of authenticity, really. Like underlying it is the smart contract with all this data and transaction history. And at the surface level, though, it's a work of art, right? So people are creating NFTs of video art, of music, of memes, of record albums. And for me, it blew my mind because I never really had the way to monetize my virtual reality experiences, my video work, my projection installations, my augmented reality models. And this has just opened the door to that. And I see NFTs as not just a new revenue stream, but it's so much more for artists, especially, that it's a new artistic medium to work with and to play with. And for example, with virtual reality, that's a new cutting edge medium to create a new form of experience for the viewer to immerse themselves inside a digital simulation. And that's never been done before. NFTs are creating this new form of experience of collecting digital goods, but connecting through that collecting experience where artists can honestly think about gamifying this collectible experience. And so it just sparks so many ideas within me. And another huge, perk of this technology is the ability to create smart contracts and embed royalties into that automated contract. So kind of the norm right now is 10% for artists to receive royalties if their artwork is bought, sold, or traded on the secondary market. So never before have artists been able to grow with the value appreciation of their piece as they become more successful and their work becomes more valuable. And thanks to the blockchain, thanks to NFTs, artists will be able to reap those rewards and create a legacy and pass that down to generations. And it is forever living on the blockchain. So that's huge, especially thinking about musicians, royalty rights, algorithms that they have to try to align themselves with to get more views on third-party platforms. And third-party intermediaries like record labels and how that can stifle creatives' creativity. So we're going to see a true boom in creativity because artists don't have to, listen to these intermediaries and can sell directly to collectors. And everyone who's bought my NFTs so far, I've stayed in touch with. We follow each other on social media. They're now a part of my life. And it's cool too, because with an NFT, you can have unlockable content, which can bring the collector closer to the artwork and give them a new form of experience. So, for example, if they buy a song, it could be a recording video of them, creating that song in the studio, or an interview, or unlocking like an augmented reality experience or something in the virtual. The possibilities are endless, and we're just beginning to scrape the surface. And with me, I'm really looking at it from a fine art perspective and from a long-term perspective because it's not going away. So, and the time is now to dive in. And even for collectors to create a crypto wallet and buy some of your favorite artists' work who are now just venturing into the space, because to collect one of their Genesis, NFTs is a big deal. And this is the time artists are now tapping into this and creating their first few NFTs, and to, be the first collectors of that first piece is a big deal, and can, be very rewarding down the line. So after learning about this on Clubhouse, I told my dad about it. I told him to get on Clubhouse. He's a Web 1.0 entrepreneur. And he tunes in and just educated himself so quickly and saw the potential and saw history repeating itself with Web 1.0, but now venturing into Web 3.0. And so I connected the dots and was listening to artists' pain points about the space, and that there's, curated platforms to mint an NFT, but you have to apply, and the waiting time is so long because everyone's getting into the space. There's other ones like OpenSea where anyone can mint anything, but there's so much noise, and your, fine artwork could be next to like a really stupid meme, right? And so that can bring down the aesthetic value and inherent value of your piece. And so
it's like being in a neighborhood. So you got this really beautiful house, but there's, this dump that right next door to you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It brings down the whole.
And like the search algorithms are not the best. There's a lot of ability to push the space forward, right? With my door project, with the Unknown Zone, it's running on 2 tracks now. And so for the past 2 months, I've been working on this second track, which is a new marketplace, utilizing the symbol of the door. And with this new marketplace, it's a blockchain-based platform. And I'm creating an all-female management team to lead the project, because it is such a male-dominated space. And in the tech world, the art world, in so many different realms. And NFTs do also have a carbon footprint, and working on with strategic partnerships to create a carbon neutral platform to roll this out, listening to the pain points of emerging artists to create a solution for them to level the playing field. So this is a highly curated platform that we're creating. And over phase 1, while we create these door installations, I'll be having 60 drops. And a drop is a launch of a collection. And it happens in one moment of a sale. So every drop will be 100 doors, digital doors. And we're going to have a curation team for the music side and the visual art side. And each set of 100 digital doors will be curated. And there'll be an underlying theme or narrative. Like I said, this project was birthed out of quarantine and really just arose from the desire of human connection. And so the heart and soul to this marketplace, to this project, is contributing your door closing and opening story. And that's the glue. That's what's going to create our community. That will serve as every person who enters into this community's bio to strip away the BS, the superficiality, and let's just get down to one seminal story in your life that makes you you. the story, we've structured it into a really fun prompt, and it's titled My Blank Experience. So mine was my concussion experience that like really transformed my life and sent me on a full-time art trajectory, which was, I like to say, I hit my head in the right way. But I was out for 5 months and totally like in darkness, and it was pretty wild. But so by titling it My Blank Experience, everyone who's a contributor, whether it's an artist or collector in our community, will be having keywords where you can click on each of these experiences and where we can form networks of almost like support groups. If, many people have a cancer experience, that was a door closing and opening moment for them. And so I just wanted to, side note that, and how that is really the ethos of this project. Is it's framed in environmental stewardship and human connection and connecting through collecting. And so with these 100 doors, for every drop, we're pairing one visual artist and one musician behind the door. They'll contribute their door closing and opening story, and they will create an artwork or a song, depending if they're a visual artist or musician, that's inspired by that story. And those are separate NFTs that are unlocked behind that door. And so it's almost like a digital advent calendar where the collector doesn't know who or what he or she is collecting, but it's so curated that the quality and what is going into it will be well worth it. And so out of these 100 emerging visual artists, one will be mega famous and established. And same with the musician side, one famous. So through this model, collectors have a 2 out of 100 chance of collecting a Madonna song or a Damien Hirst piece. And those are just 2 names I'm dropping, but yeah, we're going to get artists on that caliber, because by them contributing their piece, their story, their name, they are uplifting this entire emerging artist community. And it's, like I said, it's not hard to open doors for others. And this is a way wealthy or established and famous artists can do so in a structured format. And so with our pricing model, doors start at a fixed value and increase in value incrementally, but every artist will be paid the same amount. So it's almost like a co-op mentality that as time goes on and doors increase, we'll be accumulating a pool of money to give back, as form of stipends and to certain causes. So yeah, that's kind of the marketplace side. And every artist will have a profile with their other artwork. And so if a collector loves their piece that they collected, they'll, just stay on our platform and be able to see what that artist has also created. And this is going to turn into, by the 60th drop, a community of 6,000 musicians, 6,000 visual artists, many, many collectors. And it's not just like a one-time buy and you leave this community. Like, we're going to have a loyalty token program that will unlock new forms of experiences. And just imagine with the amount of art we'll be accumulating that aren't just behind the doors, but are in every artist's and musician's body of work, the virtual concerts we can put on, the physical events, physical art shows, but also virtual art shows. And for every drop of 100 doors, we'll be creating a virtual world to house those virtual doors and the artwork behind them. So like I said, similar to that NFT exhibition I was in, where you could drop into a portal to experience the artwork in a different world, it's going to be something similar where you can enter through that door to experience the artwork and the song on the other side, and even ring the doorbell of that door to hear the narration of the stories. So by the 60th drop, we'll have a whole solar system of the unknown zone, right? Different worlds with different doors, different themes. And so people can take excursions, world hop from the comfort of their home. So that's kind of the gist of it. There's so many more layers, and there's ways we are enabling emerging collectors to get into this game, because it is a game. And there's going to be layers and stages and things you can unlock and new experiences and mystery and twists and turns. But yeah, we're thinking about the emerging collectors. How can they have a stake in the game? And also the established, we call them whale collectors, those wealthy, Bitcoin people who got into Bitcoin early and are collecting tons of crypto art right now. How can this be a game for them, right? And thinking about every facet in that way. And so, yeah, like that's why I was just in LA and San Francisco, is I made over the past few months so many amazing connections on Clubhouse that translated from Clubhouse to a direct message on Instagram, and then that direct message to a Zoom call. And then most of those people were actually in LA and the Bay Area. So I drove out there on a really fun road trip and had meetings to build a team. Right now, building this in-house team with female management, but also a world-class advisory board to lead this project and have it really be executed to have the greatest impact and fullest potential. And so we have amazing advisory board members so far in the entertainment industry, in the legal industry, the blockchain development industry. I mean, you name it. I've talked to people who are cyborg anthropologists, spiritual shamans, amazing musicians and artists. And it's going to happen. And at this point, it's just really amazing to look back on every one of my experiences, from fine art to blockchain and fintech to VR and XR, to then venturing into installation and then learning about NFTs and how I'm merging all of these experiences into this project. And it's just been amazing, the feedback that I've received, because people can feel that it's so pure and from the heart. And it's not as if I'm pitching it, because I feel it, I embody it, I see and hold on to that vision of the potential and what will unfold. And people are really standing behind it. So right now we're working on the business model. I already have the experience mapped out, and we're going into fundraising mode this summer so we can really dive into the blockchain development and branding and paying our employees and all of that fun stuff.
So what's your timeline for this project? Do you have a set timeline, or is it kind of open-ended?
Over 6 years.
Over 6 years.
Yeah. I mean, I see the installations one a year, but I hold on to nothing, and that I'm going to let it organically evolve. But hopefully with the first drop, it'll be early next year of these 100 digital door collectibles.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got, like you said, you have people in Hollywood, in the entertainment industry, in different facets, and you got, it sounds like, a bunch of people that are in the tech side of things, these tech giants, I imagine, that are wanting to jump on board this idea. That's really exciting.
That's why I said it. Like, my mantra has been to thrive in the unknown, because with this project, I am going where no one has gone before. And so a huge part of that is letting my imagination take me there. And I remember having my first call with someone who's my NFT advisor now, and he's only taking on 2 projects this year to advise and consult. But I remember the first Zoom call we had, I had a rough idea of this. I want to do something with doors and NFTs, and his only piece of advice was just shoot for the moon. And so a week later, I just blew his mind, because I took that to heart, and I want to push the boundaries. I want to create something that aligns with the future I want to have. And that's why environmental impact is so important. Giving marginalized communities a platform for this plug and play structure, and, giving females the opportunity to lead a project that is going to truly impact the world and be really powerful.
The whole NFT thing is really, it's a very capitalist idea. It's to enable anybody to monetize these things. What is your vision? Because you talked about your vision for yourself. What is that vision? What do you want to accomplish?
Yeah, community and connection, and just really erasing the term of starving artist, and how can we create new paradigms to combat that old, archaic stigma. And, through kind of this co-op concept, through randomization of what's behind your door, we're directly connecting collectors to creatives. So my vision, my goal, my why is to not only expand my creative boundaries and horizons, but to be a vessel to open doors for people, because I've had a lot of privilege in my life, and how can I use that for good? And so that is, I think, a huge part of it is opening doors for others. And it was amazing, this conversation I had with this woman, and it wasn't even a meeting or anything scheduled, but I went to this ranch in northern Marin that this gentleman invited me to, and they were creating natural dyes and pigments there. And it's part of the Fiber Shed project about sustainable clothing. And I was talking to the woman who was creating the fabric and the dyes about my project. And, I told her at first about my inspiration of fractals and sacred geometry. And then I told her about this project, and she said, wow, the project in itself is a fractal. It's going to have these ripple effects that will just expand. And where, if artists are able to receive stipends that help them just even cover the cost of food or their studio, how much more art can they create and then sell and then create 1,000 true fans? And same with the environmental impact and contributing and donating to certain causes that are socially and environmentally centered. And how can those funds help scale their impact? And it's really an amazing kind of neural network that's forming and exponentially growing. And I just thought that was so incredible. And my favorite thing too is just talking to people about doors and what comes to mind when they think of doors. And that woman I spoke with about, this project being a fractal in itself, she said, I wonder what people think about when they walk through a door. They don't think about it, but what do they think? Or she also said that in Africa, there's a door that's a tourist, attraction now, but it was part of the slave trade called the Door of No Return. And that's where slaves entered through and never returned. And it's just really, fascinating to hear what people think when they hear of doors. And another, amazing nugget that I heard, and I've thought about this before, is doors harness the energy of the life that was lived behind it. All those experiences within the home, within, a church, within a concert hall, it harnesses that energy. So every door carries its own baggage and story and history. And I thought that was amazing too. But I want to ask you guys, when you heard about this project, is there anything that really inspired you or sparked you or about doors, and what came to mind?
I love the concept of doors too, and having multiple universes and multiple dimensions. That all speaks to me. So I love everything that you're doing. I think it's it's actually mind blowing, and you probably have heard this, right? It's genius. So I love what you're doing. I'm intrigued by where you're at. Is there anybody else in the world that is doing anything even remotely that you know about along these lines? Okay.
No,
I can't imagine, but
especially because I'm approaching this as a art project, right? And a fine art perspective, but also underlying it is a business and is a community, is an ecosystem. And after the hundreds of conversations I've had with brilliant minds and leaders in different spaces. And the pattern, the two words that come up are brilliant and that they feel inspired. And those are like the two words that just mean so much to me and, really are reassuring. And it's like, yes, I have waves of oh shit moments. This is so big and meta, but with the right team, with the right advisory board, this project won't fail. And with the right funding as well. And so I'm working on this project with my dad for the business part. And like I said, he's a Web 1.0 entrepreneur and I live with him in Telluride, and he's helping me lay the business foundation to help me roll it out, which is wonderful. And father-daughter duo is fun. We get along so well. And, he brings so much different experience capital, network capital to this. And it's bridging like the new age and old age.
Yeah. So my take on the whole thing is, once again, I echo the words that you've been hearing. I think it's absolutely genius.
Thank you.
And I really enjoy the creative aspect of it, what you're going through, and the multiple layers that you're covering. It's physical, it's tangible, and yet it's virtual. And, like Todd said, mind-bending, mind-blowing. I love all these different layers, and it is inspiring because it does make a person start to think. And I'm hoping that, our listeners will start thinking, how can they do something similar? Not similar to like recreating the door project, but something that's theirs that they can build from and blossom their creativity and create funding for themselves. And I mean, my head swims on like, what's the potential for, this podcast, or me as a photographer, or Todd as a photographer? How can we explore these virtual spaces and make money from it to support the project that we're currently working on, which is the Tenant Podcast. So my mind is literally like swirling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, because I've, like you said, you have this oh shit moment, but there's a lot of things that just come pouring through, and I like I said, I have 1,000 questions. And I don't want to get into them today, but I want to come back to you as you're growing this, because you're groundbreaking in this environment. And granted, there's a lot of people making big money in NFTs, like Beeple. Everybody's heard about him lately because he got $69.3 million for his first one, right? Mm-hmm. The first 5,000 days. Mm-hmm. And then he came back and made $6.6 million on Crossroads that just sold. You got Kevin Smith that's doing NFT of a film, and it's called Kilroy Was Here, and he's exploring it. Then you got Eminem, who's getting ready to drop his big one, and if Eminem is dropping something, it's going to be huge.
Paris Hilton just did one.
Did she?
Yeah.
What'd she make on hers, or do you know?
It was in the millions.
Yeah.
And influencers, those who are already famous, it's kind of an easy in for them because they have that network where people are there and ready to collect. I was disappointed in her drop, which was on Nifty Gateway, which is the platform that really hosts all the established famous DJs, artists, and so on. But her kind of pitch to her NFT was that it's women empowerment for all those who are not represented in this space, that she hopes that women could see themselves in this launch of this NFT. Meanwhile, there wasn't very many actions backing up her language, and that there could have been ways for her to give back easily, for maybe women who can't afford to mint the gas fee of their NFT, like a little, fund for that or something. But it just seemed very not from the heart, and just so sorry, Paris Hilton.
Yeah. just not sincere.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the world they live in. It's very superficial, right? And not to pick on Paris Hilton because I don't want to do that. But when you're a celebrity or an influencer, and everything is given to you with, and not saying they're not working hard, because I'm sure they're working hard.
And they worked their way up.
Yeah. So, but anyway.
Yeah.
So what I would like to do in the future, and hopefully fairly soon, is have a Zoom call with you again, because I want to explore how the average artist, because I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it today, because I think, our listeners have trying to wrap their head around what we've just talked about, right? So I want them to have space to do that. But what does it take for Wes Brown, a photographer, to get in the NFT field and or realm and start trying to explore that?
Totally.
And so I would really love to do a Zoom with you and then push that out to our listeners.
Yeah, let's do that now.
Yeah. So,
because this is such a heavy conversation and there's so much to explore.
And the thing is, and I want to create a relationship with you, with us, right? That we can kind of come along with you in this journey.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's awesome.
And I want, as you come into different realms and different maybe doors that are closed to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And trying to work through it, how you work through it. And, no trade secrets, share what you want. But I want this to be a learning experience, because, I can tell it's coming from the heart, right? This is a passion project for you. You're talking about emerging artists and helping them. So this is a great platform to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I am just curious and excited. And I'm just like I said, I'm swimming with this, because I love your passion for this.
Thank you.
And I can feel it. I literally can feel it. And I just am so excited for you.
Thank you.
And so anyway.
I love that idea to really follow this journey and record it. And that's why, I want to also create this documentary, because the stories that will unfold and be told and captured, and just the journey for me as an artist and how this will grow, is unknown, but also really exciting. And so thank you. And talk about opening doors, right? And you guys are a channel for this story to be heard and captured and archived. And, it's going to be a part of history. So we're history in the making.
We're hoping to leave a legacy for, other people. You know?
Legacy's, really important. And how do we want to, have our legacy be shared? And just what it should be is really, I think, in alignment with our passions. And we're all on different timelines. And I just think I feel very fortunate and blessed that I found my passion so early, and that I feel like my time is now. And so it happened early in life for me. So the best is yet to come. And that's another one of my mantras.
That's awesome. I love it. And people spend their whole life without ever finding a passion.
I know.
Yeah.
Or in my case, I've been involved in photography since I was a teenager, right? Since my first Kodak Instamatic camera. But I've always conned myself out of being a professional photographer, saying, I don't want the profession to ruin my passion for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a con that I told myself. I've been on this planet for 59 years, right? And I've conned myself most of my life of not doing what I find passionate, and it torques me off. And so it's beautiful to see somebody with your youth find something that is important and that you have this passion for. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. And I think the hardest part for artists is to claim themselves and recognize themselves as artists. That's a huge leap for someone once they start calling themselves an artist.
And that's so beautiful, because remember, Todd, early on in this, when I would say, well, I'm not an artist. I'm not an artist.
Right.
But there was a point where I quit saying that. And, we just talked to Richard, the kind of, he came out as a child saying, I am an artist, when he was a child. And I think people that are creating things have to do that. I'm hoping I can put something out there for people that are my age, my generation, or older, that have, always wanted to do something but was afraid to do it. It's never too late. Just, damn it, grab the brush, grab the palette knife, and create something. And just open your heart to it and jump into it, both feet and everything.
It's a vulnerable place to be, right? And creation is stepping into the unknown, and we are not stagnant beings ever. We're always changing and evolving. So yeah, reinvention is, I think, a beautiful thing, and just to keep being curious.
Absolutely. So that was an interesting concept or idea that you threw out to Brooke, and Brooke, you seem very receptive. So what would, moving forward, so that people can be part of this conversation, that they've heard it here on the podcast, what would be a good time frame to like kind of regularly check in with you? Is
Totally.
it like a quarter thing, every 6 months? Next year this time?
Yeah,
What do you think?
I can't wait a year, dude. I can't wait a year.
I'm not going to wait a year, but
But yeah,
that's all.
Obviously, you're going to be huge, busy, right? You're going to just be, and we're here for you.
Thank you.
So we can put it on your time frame, but we want to have this, this dialogue between each other.
Absolutely.
And when we get time, we can do short little tidbits.
Yeah, we don't need to do a 3-hour thing.
Right. And I really wanted to start with like NFTs 101, because I even like driving down, I wasn't searching because I was driving, but I was listening to some podcasts that were talking about it, but they were already talking, even though they said NFTs 101, they were already talking at a collector's level, right? That I still didn't understand. So
I'll send you a great podcast.
Okay.
New York Times
Perfect.
has one. And it could also be fun to get some of my teammates on here.
Yes.
Why they joined, what their door closing opening story is. And there's so much to play with this. And like I said, I've been really just working on this experiential and like building this team for the past 2 months. So much has happened because I am in Telluride, so isolated at 9,500 feet, not really any distractions but nature, and working on this with my dad 15 hours a day, every day. And so like our energy is just going into this. So a lot of progressions happen really quickly. So we'll play it by ear. But like I said, summer is fundraising mode. Right now we're doing our pitch deck business model, solidifying and crystallizing our team. And when I get back to Telluride, I'm going to dive into the doors, start painting. And I can't wait to get into that creation mode as a great balance to this kind of business side.
Well, maybe sometime this year we should make the trek to Telluride if you're open to it.
Well, I'm
Absolutely.
always.
We could do an episode at Brooke's studio, and she could show us what all she's
That would
working
be
on
awesome.
and some of the
And I drive
technology.
I drive to Phoenix at least, and in fact, I will be going to Phoenix in October.
Nice. Okay, cool.
And I would gladly, maybe we can meet and Telluride in October.
I'll throw a headset on you guys.
Yeah, I'd love that. And it'll be the end of October because my daughter's going to give birth to another granddaughter for me.
Congrats.
So I'm excited about that. So it's in stone that I'm going to Phoenix. So maybe we can plan, if you're not gallivanting around the world trying to, fundraise and do your project. But if you're around when I'm going or coming back, let's do that. Let's meet and Telluride, experience the virtual world of Brooke, Mindbender Art.
Mm-hmm.
So experience that and experience the physical art world of Brooke, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm down.
Awesome.
Cool. In the interim, I want to propose one more thing. Because you said that NFT 101, and we really didn't deep dive into NFTs.
Yeah.
Like full on, all in, right? And I have a million questions, but I want to let you go for this round and let you get on with your afternoon. Plus, your show's still going on, and I'm sure you want to go down there and interact with people. Maybe we can do an episode, maybe like in a month and a half, and just talk. All we'll talk is NFTs.
Sure.
Does that work for you?
Yeah, happy to help.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that'd be great. And talk about just creating them, marketplaces, marketing, all that jazz.
Yeah. Because I want artists, friends of ours to like figure out how they can jump in this virtual space and expand their artwork collection to the world. I think we're going to build a cabin in Telluride.
Okay. I'm there. You build it. I will
Or can we
come.
buy Tom Cruise's house?
It is for sale.
It's $60 million, I think.
You got to get a freaking
Something
helicopter
like
though,
that.
too, man.
Yeah, I
Because
know.
I think you
He's
can
got
just.
a helo pad on there. Have you ever seen it? Have you been by it? Have you been in it?
I think
Are you friends with
near
Tom
the
Cruise?
airport of Telluride. So I think
Okay.
I've passed by it. Yeah.
In fact, there's a pass road that I took. You take to the like you're going to the airport, and then you weave around in this community.
Last
right?
dollar.
Yes,
Mhm.
I've been down that pass.
Yeah.
In my Toyota FJ when I had it, and my dog Jax, a red Pharaoh hound, and we had a blast.
Yeah.
It was
There's great camping around there too.
It was beautiful. It was in the fall, and the yellow would just kind of
Nice.
vibrate into
Yeah.
the vehicle. It was like heaven. I do
Magic.
love Telluride. I mean, that's such a gorgeous area. I'm so excited. So
I'm
sorry.
excited. Thank you guys.
Good.
Thank you. Brooke, tell everybody one more time your website and how to follow you on Instagram and where else they can find you.
Yeah. My website's www.mindbender-art.com. And I recommend for people to subscribe to my newsletter. I give a lot of updates on what I'm up to and events and panel discussions. And my Instagram is mindbender.art. And if you'd like to subscribe to the Unknown Zone to stay in the loop, it's www.theunknownzone.com and just type in your email, and that puts you on our contact list.
Fantastic. Brooke, it's been an absolute pleasure and joy to speak with you today. It was inspirational to hear your talk yesterday and deep dive into it today on the podcast. So I so appreciate what you've done for us and sharing your story, sharing your project, and helping us understand and wrap our heads around some of this new technology.
Totally. And just thanks for holding the space and the container for us to just really share and journey into my process, my art, and what I'm currently working on.
So, and I just want to say, I really appreciate you coming here, and I am so excited for your journey. It just excites me to no end. For our listeners out there, I really encourage you to continue listening to this podcast. I appreciate all the support you've been giving us. Go on to wherever you get your podcasts, rate us, subscribe, tell your friends about it, tell them to subscribe, because I think we got some really big stuff coming up following Brooke. And, Todd is always getting great artists on, as we've seen. And, so I'm excited about this. I appreciate all your support in this journey. And, man, this has been a great afternoon. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, for the 10 podcast, I'm Todd Pearson.
And I'm Wes Brown.
Have a great week.